The crisp air of the Cascade Mountains usually brought John Miller a deep sense of peace, a quiet joy found only in the profound solitude of nature. But on this particular day, as the first threads of winter snow began to dance against the darkening sky, another feeling came over him, perhaps a premonition or simply a deep awareness of the harsh, relentless season ahead. It was a familiar, almost comforting melancholy, the knowledge that soon he would be completely alone, save for the whispering pines and distant, unseen calls of the wild. John, a man of 58, did not simply live in the heart of these vast American mountains. He had become a part of the ancient forest itself. His remote cabin, a sturdy log structure built by his own calloused hands decades earlier, stood as a solitary sentinel against the wilderness. Inside, the air was constantly filled with the scent of split cedar, damp earth, and the faint, soothing aroma of wood smoke from the stone hearth that served as the cabin's beating heart. Each morning, John rose with practiced, efficient movements. His days unfolded in a predictable, almost meditative rhythm, patrolling the winding trails he meticulously maintained, inspecting fallen trees, repairing his worn tools, and engaging in a silent, subtle dance with nature, watching, listening, understanding its intricate language. He knew the mountain like the back of his hand, every hidden spring, every deer trail. For him, the forest was not just work, it was his world, his refuge. His face, weathered and lined from countless seasons, bore fine wrinkles around piercing gray eyes reflective of innumerable years. His large, calloused hands told the story of a life spent working with wood and steel. Yet winter was a wholly different beast. This year, it was coming earlier than usual, promising relentless blizzards and a biting cold that would cut him off from the nearest town, Pine Ridge, for months. He had spent weeks preparing methodically, stacking wood piles, securing food supplies meant to last. The quiet anticipation of solitude, though familiar, carried a heavier weight this year, a feeling of something stirring just beyond the veil of the everyday. As dusk fell into the cold gray twilight, the kind that promised not just snow, but an unyielding, powerful snowfall, John was inside, mending a tear in his old hunting jacket by the warm fire in his hearth. The rhythmic scrape of his needle was the only sound when a subtle shift in the air caught his attention, a silence too deep for the lively forest. The wind, which moments ago sighed through the pines, completely halted. He froze, needle suspended, listening. Then, a shadow flickered at the edge of his peripheral vision. Approaching the window, his gaze swept across a snow-dusted clearing, his hand instinctively resting on the cold, smooth wood of his rifle. There, emerging from the dense thicket of spruces and firs, was a presence utterly unprecedented in his decades of solitary life. It was a wolf, undeniably large, its once proud coat a dull, tangled gray, smeared with patches of dirty brown and clumps of snow. The creature moved with a deep, painful limp, each step deliberate, burdened by the effort of dragging its body through the accumulating powder. Its head was lowered, not in submission, but in exhaustion, its breath billowing in ragged white clouds in the darkening air. This was not the fleeting glance of a wild animal. It was a creature clearly in distress, not trying to hide among the brush or flee from the cabin's presence. Instead, it moved slowly, purposefully, into the open clearing, its tail tucked in a posture of deep vulnerability rather than aggression. Its eyes, a striking amber against its gaunt face, fixed on John with a troubling, unwavering intensity unlike anything he had ever seen in a wild animal. There was no threat, no wild challenge, no predatory gleam, only a deep, piercing look that seemed to bypass his senses and penetrate something primal inside him. The air crackled with an unspoken question, a silent demand that defied all logic and expectation. Heavy snowflakes continued to fall, blanketing the clearing, each a tiny, cold witness to the unfolding drama before John's eyes. He stood motionless, needle still in hand, breath caught in his chest, as the wolf took another painful, hesitant step closer, shrinking the invisible boundary between their two worlds. Its large, powerful body, usually an exemplar of wild grace, now displayed a desperate fragility. The creature's struggle was evident in every trembling muscle, every heavy breath, the raw display of suffering, contradicting the usual stoicism of the wild. As the wolf neared, its features became painfully clear, etched into John's memory. It was unmistakably female, her belly swollen and heavy with pups, a visible, undeniable sign of the fragile lives she carried. A low, pained whine escaped her throat, a sound so raw and utterly devoid of any predatory threat that it sent a shiver down John's spine, not from fear, but from a deep, unexpected compassion. It was the sound of pure, unfiltered suffering, the kind he had heard from wounded deer, but never from a predator. Her body, once a symbol of untamed strength, now visibly trembled with exhaustion and pain, every muscle tense beneath her dull, matted fur. She took another hesitant step, then another, until she was only 20 feet from the cabin's threshold, an unheard-of closeness for a creature of her kind. Her amber eyes, wide and glowing, held a depth of suffering and desperation that seemed to pierce John's hardened exterior, bypassing his years of stoicism and ingrained understanding of the merciless nature of the wild. It was a gaze that spoke volumes without a single word, a silent, profound plea, clear and undeniable, in the ancient, universal language of the wild. Every fiber of her being cried out for help, for intervention, for something she could not articulate, but that John, in that moment, understood with a clarity that struck him to his core. The falling snow continued its relentless descent, blanketing the ground in a thickening coat, reflecting the mounting weight of the wolf's desperate plight and the unbearable burden now resting on the solitary forester's shoulders. He could see the faint outline of her ribs, the way she dragged her back leg, clearly carrying a painful, festering wound that had likely gone untreated for days. She was not simply hungry or cold, she was dying, and with her, 3, possibly 4 lives nestled in her womb. The unspoken question hung heavily in the frigid air, demanding an answer that John, in all his 58 years, had never imagined he would have to give. This was not just an animal seeking temporary shelter from the storm. This was a mother fighting with every ounce of strength for the survival of her kind, and she had chosen him, a solitary man of the forest, as her last, incredible hope. John stood frozen, the biting wind now a tangible force whipping at his worn jacket. His mind, usually a fortress of practicality and hard-earned wisdom, was a battlefield. Decades of living by the unforgiving laws of the wild screamed at him, "Do not interfere. This is nature's way." A predator is a predator, no matter its plight. He had witnessed countless animals fall to injury, starvation, or predators' teeth. It was the brutal, beautiful cycle, a truth as unyielding as the granite peaks around him. His training as a forester reinforced this detachment. His job was to manage the forest, not meddle in the struggles of individual inhabitants, especially not a creature as powerful and unpredictable as a wolf. John stood frozen, the biting wind now a tangible force whipping at his worn jacket. His mind, usually a fortress of practicality and hard-earned wisdom, was a battlefield. Decades of living by the unforgiving laws of the wild screamed at him, "Do not interfere. This is nature's way." A predator is a predator, no matter its plight. He had witnessed countless animals fall to injury, starvation, or predators' teeth. It was the brutal, beautiful cycle, a truth as unyielding as the granite peaks around him. His training as a forester reinforced this detachment. His job was to manage the forest, not meddle in the struggles of individual inhabitants, especially not a creature as powerful and unpredictable as a wolf. The very idea of approaching a wild wolf, injured or not, was unthinkable, a recipe for disaster. He could be bitten, seriously injured, or worse. The nearest medical help was hours away, a dangerous journey in good weather, let alone amid an impending blizzard. Yet, as he met the wolf's gaze, a profound, almost primal current surged through him, overruling all logic. Those amber eyes, reflecting the deepening twilight, held no aggression, but raw, unfiltered despair. A sentient intelligence transcending mere instinct. It was the desperate gaze of a mother, vulnerable and pleading, revealing the precious life she carried. He saw not just a wolf, but a life on the brink, and the lives of her unborn pups, doomed if he did nothing. The image of the struggling mother, burdened with new life, stirred something deep inside him, a flicker of compassion still burning beneath his rugged exterior. Though a man who had chosen solitude, his heart was not stone. He had nursed injured fledglings, freed deer from snares, even left extra provisions for harsh winter bears. But a wolf? This was different. It crossed the unspoken line, breaking the pact between man and wild. Sensing his inner turmoil, the wolf let out another soft whimper, so fragile it almost melted into the falling snow. She took another laborious step, then sank onto her haunches, injured leg awkwardly splayed. Her head drooped, eyes fixed on John, a silent testament to exhaustion and the last sparks of hope. She was not demanding, she was simply there, a living question mark amid his humanity. Snow fell heavier, large, wet flakes coating her matted fur, forming a thin, white blanket over her trembling body. John knew, with a cold certainty deeper than the winter chill, that if she remained exposed, she and her pups would not see dawn. The wind howled, a mournful dirge, heralding a long, brutal night. His decision was not logical, but an instinctive surge of empathy overwhelming his caution. He could not. He simply could not watch her die. Not like this. Not when she had chosen him, with such a desperate, undeniable plea. It was her act of faith, and his leap into the unknown. He took a deep breath, the cold air burning his lungs, then carefully laid his rifle against the cabin wall, his movements slow and non-threatening. The wolf watched closely, ears swiveling, head tilted with wary intelligence. "All right, girl," John murmured, voice rough but soft, almost a whisper. "All right, let's see what we can do." He moved with extreme caution, decades of wildlife experience guiding every step. Not approaching directly, he circled wide, keeping his posture open and non-threatening. His first priority, a safe, warm space. He eyed his woodshed, a sturdy, three-sided shed attached to the cabin's rear, usually stacked with logs. Sheltered from wind and snow, it offered some privacy. Taking a shovel and some old tarps from the shed's corner, avoiding sudden moves, he worked while the wolf watched intently, head following him. No growl or teeth-baring, just that relentless, desperate stare. John cleared a small space, pushing logs aside to form a roughly 5-foot diameter circle. He layered dried pine needles and leaves collected earlier, creating a soft, insulating bed. Then covered it with a tarp secured by heavy logs forming a makeshift roof and windbreak. Crude, but much better than the open forest floor. While working, he spoke softly and continuously, not expecting understanding, but hoping the gentle rhythm conveyed his intent. "There you go, girl. A bit warmer for you. Just for a bit. All right, just for a bit." When ready, he slowly backed away to clear a path. Retrieving a strip of dried venison from the cabin, a tough emergency ration, he offered it in an open palm. Knowing the risk, a hungry, injured animal might lash out, John remained still, breath held. The choice hung in the frigid air, a fragile balance between primal fear and desperate need. The wolf's eyes flickered between the meat and his face. A low rumble, almost a purr, rose from her chest, a sound of deep hunger. Shifting her weight cautiously, she limped forward, nose twitching to assess the scent of meat and man. Snapping the venison from his hand with surprising gentleness, teeth brushing his fingers, she immediately retreated to the woodshed's edge, consuming the meat in a few swift gulps. Her body trembled, but her desperate glare softened, if only slightly. John exhaled slowly, a shaky breath he hadn't realized he'd held. He had crossed the line. The contract was broken, or rewritten. He watched as she cautiously entered the shelter, sniffing the pine needles, then lowered herself onto the bed. She curled into a tight ball, head resting on paws, eyes on him, now holding a fragile, fledgling trust. Outside, snow blanketed the clearing, but inside the crude shelter, a tiny spark of hope flickered. For days, the blizzard raged, isolating John completely. Outside became a swirling white vortex, the wind a relentless banshee. He kept respectful distance, checking on the wolf every few hours, leaving fresh water and dried venison or stew scraps near the shelter's entrance. In his mind, he named her Luna, a silent tribute to the silver-gray creature who had brought an unprecedented challenge to his solitary life. Luna slowly began to relax in his presence, no longer tensing at his approach, though her eyes remained watchful. Sometimes he caught her observing him from deep within the den, a quiet, assessing gaze speaking volumes. On the storm's third night, a new sound pierced the howling wind, faint, high-pitched whimpers followed by soft, guttural grunts. John knew instantly, the pups. Respecting her privacy, he did not approach, staying awake listening, heart pounding with anxiety and awe. By morning, the cries were stronger and more numerous. Peering cautiously inside, he saw 3 tiny, helpless, dark-furred bundles nestled beside Luna, suckling greedily. So small, utterly vulnerable, yet full of life's tenacious spark. Luna looked up, tired eyes now glowing fiercely with protection. She was a mother, and her children had survived the storm thanks to him. But her condition worsened. The wound on her hind leg, glimpsed before, was now clearly visible, a deep, angry gash, festering, oozing pus, radiating unhealthy heat. Severely infected, childbirth had taken its toll. She was weak, feverish, threatened by infection that could claim her and her pups. John knew he had to act. It was no longer just shelter and food. Medical intervention was necessary, beyond anything he'd ever considered. Gathering his basic first aid kit, a bottle of antiseptic, clean bandages, scissors, and a small sterilized knife, his hands trembled as he approached the woodshed. Luna watched, ears flattened, a low growl rumbling, a weak warning. "Easy, girl," John murmured, kneeling slowly, keeping distance. "Easy, Luna. I need to help you. Your leg is bad. I have to clean it." He spoke softly, as if to a human, explaining his intent. Setting supplies down, he extended an open palm for her to sniff. After a long, agonizing moment, she hesitantly lowered her head, nose brushing his fingers. The brief contact was an unspoken pact of trust. He knew this would be difficult. He'd have to gently restrain her to clean the wound. Using an old leather belt meant for tying gear, he fashioned a makeshift muzzle while speaking gently. Luna tensed, but did not resist. Her trust, born of desperation and his consistent kindness, remained strong. Working quickly and as gently as possible, John cleaned the wound. Worse than he'd thought, deep and inflamed. Pouring antiseptic, Luna whimpered softly, trembling but still. Carefully removing dead tissue with the knife, his heart ached at her pain. Then he bandaged tightly. A crude procedure, but all he could do. Removing the muzzle, Luna immediately licked her injured leg and looked up, eyes shimmering with newfound gratitude. He stayed long, sitting near the den's entrance, his presence a silent comfort. Their bond, forged in vulnerability and mercy, deepened into something profound and unexpected. Weeks passed, the blizzard broke, yielding crisp winter days. Luna's wound healed slowly, infection receding under John's care. He changed bandages daily with the same silent trust. She ate more, strength returning. The pups thrived, tiny, clumsy balls of fluff, eyes now open, exploring their confined world. John found himself watching them for hours, a gentle smile on his weathered face. He even left the cabin door ajar during the day to let them play in the snow-covered clearing, always under Luna's watchful eye. Peace was short-lived. One morning, while checking trap lines, John found fresh tracks, large, aggressive paw prints, bigger than Luna's, circling his cabin and woodshed. A dominant male wolf, a rival from a neighboring pack, drawn by Luna and her pup's scent. Danger looming. John knew the brutal law of wolf packs. A dominant male seeks to eliminate rivals, especially vulnerable pups, to assert lineage. The fragile family was now in peril. Returning to the cabin, John's heart sank with dread. Luna was recovering, but weak, unable to defend her pups against a full-grown male. He, John Miller, solitary forester, had become their unexpected guardian, now tasked to protect them from their own kind. The rival appeared 2 days later, a hulking shadow on pristine snow as the sun set, painting skies orange and purple. Majestic and terrifying, a raw power and untamed ferocity embodied. Coat deep, nearly black-gray, eyes cold, piercing. A jagged scar slashed across his left eye, giving a perpetual menacing sneer. John named him Scar. Scar stood at clearing edge, body language radiating clear threat. Low, guttural growls vibrated the frozen air. Intimidation, dominance. Inside the woodshed, Luna whined anxiously, signaling fear and weakness. John raised his rifle, a reliable Winchester Model 70. His intent was not to kill, but deter and protect. Positioning himself between male and wolf family, he stood firm in deep snow, silhouette stark in fading light. A tense, frozen standoff ensued. Air crackled with unspoken challenge. Scar circled slowly, eyes locked on John, assessing this unexpected human obstacle. Snarl deepened, a low, menacing rumble. "Back off!" John's voice, calm no longer, sharp with desperation's authority. He raised rifle, aiming not at wolf, but slightly above its head, a clear warning. Startled, the larger wolf paused, surprised by human defiance. An unprecedented challenge to its natural dominance. For a long, agonizing moment, man and beast locked in silent will battle. Only whispers of wind and distant nightbird cries broke the stillness. Then John fired one deafening warning shot into the air. Rifle cracked, echoed through mountains, shattering silence. The larger wolf flinched, ears flattened, body tensed, then, with final frustrated snarl, turned and retreated into dense forest, hulking shadow vanishing into twilight. John watched until it disappeared, heart slowly settling. He had won, for now. Weeks turned to months. Luna, fully healed, sleek, vibrant coat, pups robust and playful, ready to return wild. No longer helpless bundles, but miniature wolves full of energy and burgeoning independence. Departure time imminent. John felt sadness, but also deep accomplishment. He had fulfilled his unlikely role as their guardian. On departure morning, crisp, clear air, snow melting in patches under strengthening spring sun, Luna emerged, pups tumbling after, chasing playfully with nips. She walked slowly toward John, not for food, but with something in her mouth. A small, intricately carved wooden figurine. An old, forgotten relic from a long-lost trapper's camp. A stylized owl sculpture John had sought for years, rumored in his territory, relic of bygone era. He dismissed it as myth or local folklore, yet here it was, offered by a wolf. She laid it at his feet, amber eyes meeting his in silent, profound gratitude. A testament to her intelligence, memory, and a connection transcending species boundaries. She found something he valued, something he sought, and offered it as thanks. A moment of pure magic, a silent language shared between two beings bound by their struggle for life. John knelt, picking up the smooth carving, fingers tracing ancient lines. "Thank you, Luna," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. Looking up, she was already turning, pups gathering around her. With a final lingering glance, silent acknowledgement of their shared journey, the wolf family vanished back into vast wilderness, melting into ancient trees as if a dream. John was alone again, the small wooden owl warm in his hand. But he was irrevocably changed. The encounter shattered his preconceived notions about the wild, his place within it, and the deep capacity for connection between man and beast. His cabin, once sanctuary from the wild, now felt part of it, filled with echoes of shared struggle, newborn whimpers, and an extraordinary act of compassion. The solitude he had always cherished now felt different, richer, infused with memory of amber eyes and profound silent understanding. Months later, summer blooming in the mountains, John on usual patrol deep in a remote valley untouched since the snows melted. The forest vibrant, alive with insect hum and leaf rustle. Pausing on a ridge, scanning below, he saw them. In distance, moving gracefully through sun-dappled clearing, was a wolf pack. At its head, strong, regal Luna, coat gleaming in sunlight. Behind her, bounding with youth's energy, 3 magnificent young wolves, now nearly grown, moving fluidly and powerfully. Her pups. A fleeting glance, a silent acknowledgement passed between them across sun-drenched forest. No need for words or proximity. Connection remained, an invisible thread woven into wilderness fabric. Luna paused, head held high, then continued journey, pack following. John watched until they vanished into tree line, lump in his throat forming. The experience etched into his soul, a powerful reminder that true wild holds not only danger and indifference, but profound wisdom, unexpected alliances, and the enduring, tenacious spirit of life. Now he always carried the small wooden owl, a tangible symbol of the extraordinary bond forged, silent testament to the day a pregnant wolf begged a forester for help, opening his heart to nature's deepest mysteries.